the highest paid skill nobody talks about. Have you ever wondered why two people can have the exact same income, the same education, and even the same opportunities? Yet 5 years later, one is financially free while the other is living paycheck to paycheck. It's easy to assume the difference is intelligence. Maybe one person is naturally gifted. Maybe they know something everyone else doesn't. Maybe they just got lucky. I used to think that too, until I started paying closer attention. Because the more people I met, the more I realized something didn't add up. Some of the smartest people I knew were constantly stressed about money. Meanwhile, people who weren't necessarily the brightest in the room were quietly building wealth. Not overnight, not through luck, but steadily. That raised a question I couldn't ignore. If intelligence isn't the deciding factor, what is? And once I found the answer, it completely changed the way I looked at money. Here's what most people never realize. The highest paid skill in today's economy isn't coding, it isn't sales, it isn't even investing. Those are valuable skills, but they all depend on something much deeper. The real skill is making consistently good decisions. Every financial outcome you have today is the result of thousands of decisions you've made over the years. Some small, some big. Should I spend this or invest it? Should I upgrade my lifestyle or keep my expenses stable? Should I buy something that makes me look wealthy or something that actually builds wealth? These don't feel like life-changing decisions in the moment, but over time, they quietly shape your financial future. That's why two people earning exactly the same salary can end up living completely different lives. One person uses every salary increase to increase their spending. The other uses every salary increase to increase their assets. Same income, different decisions, different future. This reminds me of Money Heist. The professor didn't win because he had the biggest team or the biggest budget. He won because every decision was intentional. Every move had a purpose. Whenever someone abandoned the plan, problems followed. Tokyo reacted emotionally. Berlin sometimes acted impulsively. The professor kept returning everyone back to the system. And that's exactly how wealth works. The people who build lasting wealth don't make perfect decisions. They simply make fewer emotional ones. Now here's where most people get distracted. They spend years trying to learn complicated strategies. How to invest, how to trade, how to start a business, how to buy property, how to build multiple income streams. All useful skills. But here's the problem. A strategy only works if the person using it can make good decisions consistently. Imagine giving two people the exact same blueprint to build a house. One follows it carefully. The other keeps making changes halfway through because they saw something interesting online. At the end, one has a solid house. The other has an expensive construction site. The blueprint wasn't the problem. Execution was. Money works exactly the same way. That's why financial education isn't just about teaching people how to make money. It's about teaching them how to think. Because making money and keeping money are completely different skills. You've probably seen this happen before. Someone receives a promotion. The income doubles. Within a year, their lifestyle doubles too. A bigger car, a better phone, a more expensive apartment, more subscriptions, more monthly commitments. From the outside, they look successful. Behind the scenes, they are just carrying a bigger financial burden. Now, compare that with someone else. Their salary also increases. But instead of upgrading everything, they quietly buy another income producing asset. Maybe they invest in a business. Maybe they build a digital product. Maybe they learn a skill that creates recurring income. Maybe they start a simple side system they can manage alongside their job. Nobody notices because wealth usually grows quietly. That's another misconception. People think the highest paid skill is earning more. I don't think it is. I think it's allocating better because earning money without knowing where it will go is like pouring water into a bucket with holes. No matter how much you pour, it never stays full. And here's something that changed my own thinking. Every salary has two jobs. The first job is paying today's bills. That's obvious. But the second job is building tomorrow's income. Most salaries never get assigned that second responsibility. They are consumed completely, month after month, year after year. That's why someone can earn well for 20 years and still have very little to show for it. Not because they didn't work hard, but because every shilling they earned worked only once. The wealthy think differently. They ask a different question. Instead of asking, how much did I earn this month? They ask, how much of this salary will still be working for me 5 years from now? That single question changes everything. And this is where most people unknowingly limit themselves. They believe financial success comes from working harder. Sometimes it does, but only up to a point because there are only so many hours you can sell. Eventually, the bottleneck isn't your effort, it's your decisions. And that's exactly why the people building lasting wealth aren't always the people working the hardest. They are the people making better decisions over and over again. Think about someone who receives an unexpected bonus. One person sees it as permission to celebrate, a holiday, a new gadget, maybe a car upgrade. Then the money is gone before even the excitement fades. Another person sees the same bonus differently. They ask, how can this money create more money? Maybe they buy an income producing asset. Maybe they invest in learning a high value skill. Maybe they use it to start a small business that generates cash flow. Same amount, completely different outcome. Because the opportunity wasn't in the money, it was in the decision. And this is why I believe decision making is one of the most valuable financial skills you can develop. Not because every decision will be perfect, but because better decisions made consistently compound, just like interest. One financial decision probably won't change your life, but 1,000 small disciplined decisions absolutely will. Now, this reminds me of House of the Dragon. The character who acted purely on emotion, wanting revenge, seeking immediate power, or reacting without thinking often created consequences that lasted for generations. The leaders who paused, who thought beyond the moment, were usually the ones who protected what mattered most. Money works the same way. Every emotional financial decision solves today's feeling, but often creates tomorrow's problem. Every thoughtful financial decision may require short-term sacrifice, but it builds long-term freedom. And here's where this becomes practical. Imagine you're offered two choices. The first gives you immediate satisfaction. The second gives you long-term growth. Most people instinctively choose the first. not because they are irresponsible, but because the human brain naturally prefers immediate rewards. That's why, by the way, impulse buying feels good. That's why the latest investment trend feels exciting. That's why people constantly switch business idea before giving one enough time to grow. Emotion loves immediacy. Wealth rewards patience. Now, once you understand that, you start seeing money differently. You stop asking, how quickly can I make more? And you begin asking, how often can I make better decisions? Because that's the real game. Every salary, every investment, every purchase, every opportunity, every financial choice is another vote for the kind of future you're building. Now, this is why I teach financial education before I teach income building skills. Because making money without learning how to manage decisions is like filling a bucket with holes. The income may increase, but the outcome doesn't. I've seen people double their income but still struggle financially. I've also seen people with ordinary salaries quietly build a remarkable financial stability. The difference wasn't talent, it wasn't luck, and it definitely wasn't intelligence. It was structure. They had principles that guided every decision. Instead of asking, can I afford this? They asked, will this move me closer to financial freedom? Instead of chasing every opportunity, they chose a few and stayed consistent. Instead of reacting emotionally, they followed a process. That's exactly why the foundation of the 3C method isn't trading, it's thinking. Because before you can build consistent extra income, you need to become the kind of person who can consistently make good financial decisions. That's where the 3Cs begin: clarity, knowing what you're trying to build, and refusing to be distracted by everything else. Control, managing your emotions instead of letting your emotions manage your money. And consistency, making the same quality decisions over and over again until they become your identity. Because financial freedom is rarely built by one extraordinary moment. It's built by ordinary decisions repeated for many years. The world celebrates dramatic success stories: the overnight millionaire, the viral business, the lucky investment. But behind almost every lasting success, there's something much less exciting: thousands of quiet decisions that nobody applauded. Choosing to invest instead of consume, choosing to learn instead of impress, choosing patience instead of urgency, choosing assets instead of liabilities. Those decisions rarely make headlines, but they build futures. So if someone asked me today, what is the highest paid skill that nobody talks about? My answer wouldn't be investing. It wouldn't be trading. It wouldn't even be entrepreneurship. It would be this: the ability to make calm, intentional financial decisions, even when your emotions are telling you to do something else. Because once you master that, every other financial skills becomes easier to learn. Every opportunity becomes easier to evaluate. Every setback becomes easier to recover from. And every salary, no matter how small it starts, has a much better chance of becoming lasting wealth. In the end, money doesn't just reward intelligence, it rewards judgment. And judgment is built one decision at a time. So before you ask, how can I make more money? Ask yourself something far more powerful: am I becoming someone who consistently makes better financial decisions? Because when that changes, everything else starts changing with it. And that's the highest paid skill that almost nobody is talking about.